just got done watching In a Violent Nature. This is that movie where we kind of watch it from the killer's perspective. So, very interesting concept. I don't know of any other movie that's like this. But where the concept is cool, unfortunately, it should have just been left at that. Because watching a killer walk around about 80% of the movie is just not fun. I've seen people criticize this movie because of this. They say it's boring. And then I see people criticize those people. You know, I don't think that's fair, because if you're going to have a movie from the perspective of the killer, I think it could be done better than this movie. However, this movie has some good positives in it, so I'll talk about those first and then get into the negatives, and then if I would recommend this movie or not. So, positives. The camera work and the shots are beautiful and pretty good. The gore, of course, is good. However, kind of dipping into the negatives real fast, there is a couple off-screen deaths. However, one gets a pass because, in my book, if you're going to open your movie, you know, that first kill can get a pass if it's an off-screen, as long as we get to see the aftermath of it later. And, of course, we do get that. So, there's its one pass, but there is another, like, off-screen death. And I just wasn't a fan of that. But the camera works great. The sound effects are amazing. You know, the blood gurgling sound effect. I don't even know what to call them, but if you've played Mortal Kombat X, and just about every single fatality in that game has that same sound effect, and it's just like you hear that, and you can really hear the guts being pulled out, and you know, it's just really good. Also, dipping to the negatives real fast again with sound. Since this is from the killer's perspective for the most part, you get to hear people but don't get to see them at all. And it's clear that it's just like they're just doing voiceovers for the actual scene. I'm just not a fan of that. That's more of a personal gripe. But this movie does do some stuff. I mean, the whole area is great. Like, the whole scenery, great. But I think that just about... makeup, I should mention the makeup. We do get to see the killer's face eventually. And even without just the face, the costume, you know, the clothing, it's pretty good. So, yeah, I think that just about does it for the positives. I mean, we get a little bit of backstory of the killer, and we even get to see some development, just slightly. I mean, it's so slight, I don't know if you can even call it character development. But moving on to the negatives, this movie is 80% of him walking around, and there's camera cuts, you know, to show. You know what, that's something I didn't mention in my positives. My bad. The camera does not cut a whole lot in scenes where he is killing someone or getting ready to. Like, it's all one shot, and it's beautiful. When you have a scene where you have someone chasing another person, you know, walking slowly up to them, and they're on the ground crawling away. And in this movie, he takes a big rock and drops it onto somebody's head, and their head just goes splat. And when it looks super realistic, like they didn't cut it or switch angles at all to, you know, put the dummy in place, it really adds to it. So they did a great job with that. Some of the props are really good, but some of the props are not that good. And some of them you can clearly tell mannequin or dummy. So this movie is very boring, unfortunately. Some people, I've seen people complain about some of the acting with certain kills, and I don't necessarily think it's the acting or the actress's fault. I think it's just the way it was wrote. That is, you know, I get it. A character's supposed to be in shock. You know, they're being killed. You know, they got a hole in their gut. They should be screaming, but it adds to it if you can hear that blood curdling scream. You know, I'm not trying to be a sick fuck on this video. I'm just saying it really does add to it. But some chick, you know, she just turns around and yeah, she's in shock, she's dying, but like she doesn't sell it. But yeah, I mean, like I said, some of the props you can tell, or you know, that this guy, his like spine's broken or something. He can't feel anything from the neck down, and so he's just laying there. And I'm kind of weird when I see a dead body in a movie. I really pay attention to it to see if I can see the actor breathing. I don't know why. I know there's a scene in the very first episode of The Walking Dead Dead City spinoff where a bloater zombie is supposed to... Well, first off, it's a zombie. They don't breathe. Second off, supposed to be dead. And I can see it. I can see the actor breathing. I'm like, dude, come on, hold your breath. So I'm weird like that. So some scenes you can just tell there's a mannequin laying there. And they have the character's head through like a floor or something. I don't know. But... last 13 minutes of this movie, they could have just cut that out or something. There's scenes where it's like full of dread in a good way. It's like, oh my god, he's gonna come, and he just doesn't come, and it's just like, huh, okay, they went nowhere with that. But yeah, like it's just that's the main problem with this movie. It's just a lot of walking around. Our characters, the survivors, we don't get any character development with them because it's not about them. So while that's obvious, it's also a problem because you're there to watch them die, but like you don't feel anything for them if they do, which I think is always like you always want characters. You always want to feel bad when a character dies. Granted, about like 70% of horror movies out there have characters that you just don't give a shit if they die or they're just wrote terribly. But sometimes there's some really good movies, like going back to Wrong Turn, the original. That whole cast, for the most part, you want them all to live. You know they're not all going to make it out, but you want them to. But yeah, I mean, it's just, we don't get enough from these characters, and it's just like, man, at the very least, most of the kills are good, because we don't care about these people at all. But I don't know, that's just how I felt. I would not recommend watching this movie. If you're interested, I would recommend watching a kill count, carnage count. Just something to watch the kills. I wouldn't recommend sitting through an hour and 34 minutes of this with like I remember I paused the movie. 46 minutes in, there's only 46 minutes left. And there's already 4 kills, 2 of them off screen. And I'm just like, man, I mean, I'm glad I only rented this movie for $7. But yeah, that's where I'm at. If I ever rate this movie, maybe like a 4 out of 10. Because I feel like a 3 is too harsh. Because I don't want to say this movie's bad necessarily. It's just boring. But I like the points I give it for, the gore, the camera, and the sound effects. Those are my 3 points. So I guess just being generous, I'll give it an extra point. But yeah, it's just I wouldn't recommend this movie. This movie, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's so crazy, it's so good," but I disagree. I just think it's quite boring, really. There's too much walking around, and that's why this concept is just like, it'd be cool to see it through the killer, but at this rate, I don't know, man. Not for me. Let me know what you think about this movie if you've watched it. Are you interested in seeing it? Or did you not like it like me? You thought it was boring? And I mean, it's perfectly fine to say it's boring with all the walking around. People seriously sit there and think people are idiots for saying that, but that's just how it is. I mean, I've never been so bored watching a movie. At the very least, I didn't sit here and think, man, this movie sucks. I just thought, man, this movie's boring. So yeah, anyways, thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next video. Subscribe if you're interested in any of my content. I think my next video will be like a First Descendant first impressions video, and then after that, some point this weekend, I really want to upload, and well, I gotta make the video first, but I've had the clips made since like March, so I've been very late to doing that. But Beartooth, the Surface album review, so stay tuned for that if you're a Beartooth fan. Thanks for watching. See you next video.